Welcome back. I'm now joined by Mteto Nyati, the CEO of ALTRON Technology Solutions. He's with me to talk about his book, Betting on a Darkie, but his life experience in itself and the articles he's written over time actually speak to the bigger South African situation, if not the world. So we'll also be touching on that. And Mteto, pleasure to have you.
Thank you for having me. Yeah.
And you know, I've spoken to you before about so many other different things, but not about you, the person. So
Yeah.
I think
I hardly like to speak about myself.
I can tell.
Yeah.
But you know, the story that you've got to tell is worth it. I really enjoyed the book, so let me give you that feedback.
No, thank you so much for that feedback.
And I hope many more people will read it.
Yeah.
But I was I found interest in the foreword by former President Thabo Mbeki.
Yes.
And what he says there, right, in the foreword. He says, notwithstanding what South Africans see about people going wrong, being opportunistic, and the increase in corruption and the lowering of the value system, notwithstanding what the Constitution says about the kind of South Africa we should become. He says, your book and life story actually counter that view that everyone these days who's an elite, a professional, a politician, a career person is corrupt.
He actually advances that argument.
Yes.
And he is actually right in advancing that. We always see things and amplify the things that we see. Yes, there is corruption, and yes, there are leaders in some of the state-owned enterprises or in government or in business in general that are incompetent. But in the main, we've got leaders that are doing great things. You know, when I look at the leader who's leading Standard Bank, African Bank, Barlow World, these are black leaders that are doing exceptionally great work, and these are people that are driven by excellence and governance. And that story is never told. So what I'm telling here is just my example of the thousands or hundreds and thousands of many black South Africans that are doing great things.
You know, what I picked up in the book is that it's actually values-driven, your life story. Different things and decisions you've taken are based on specific values.
Yes.
Tell me more. Was it deliberate when you put the book together that you're going to, through your life story, try and amplify, highlight specific values?
I would say, if you look at the work that I do, whether I was at IBM, at Microsoft, MTN, currently here at ALTRON, my intervention is always at a values level. If you were to go to and find from the people of ALTRON today, they'll be telling you about the new values that we are driving. Why is it like that? It's because we can say to people, these people are racist, these people are, you know, they hate women, but at the core of all of that are beliefs, are assumptions, are values. We need to replace those values with the right kind of values that will then help these people to act and behave differently. We tend to interact with people. Yeah, he's saying this thing, and I try and challenge him or try to box him in a fight. That is at a wrong level. We need to address these things at the core. So if you look at some of the people that we have in our own company now, people that have truly embraced the new values, it impacts them not only just at work. These are the things that they carry back to society. In fact, what we're doing, we are actually changing society through the work that we're doing here at
But you know, I suppose the way we use language is also very important,
yes.
right? And sharing of the values as being a values-driven person yourself
yes.
Is an example of that, in the sense that you hear words like corporate, cutthroat corporate greed.
Yes.
Right? And in South Africa, we talk about white monopoly capital. And then people then think to themselves, alone, you cannot trust corporate leaders, you are a nice guy, I know. But once they hear that, they say, no, they'll be very skeptical when they come across Mteto Nyati and say, nah, he's just one of them. He's one of the greedy guys.
Yes.
Don't trust him.
Yes.
And in any event, he's serving the interests of white monopoly capital.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And what does that do, from your experience, what does it do to how we should be dealing with professional careers and dealing with creating opportunities and building successful companies?
You know, that is probably one of the things that paralyzes many black professionals. You get appointed, you get promoted to a senior role, you are labeled as a sellout, you are labeled as impimpi, you are labeled as somebody who is driving a white monopoly capital agenda. So immediately people do not want to even listen to you. And that is very, very, very bad for us to be doing something like that, because, as I had said, many people, good people, are doing good things. So what should people like myself do, finding yourself in that position? The only way you can change those perceptions is through your actions. People can say whatever they like, they can label you whatever, but go and demonstrate. And through the work that you do, they will start to see, no, there's a disconnect between what I thought and what I'm seeing. And the only thing that will make them to change is through the actions that you do. And that's what throughout my life, that's what I've been doing, trying to show that actually you can use this vehicle called business for good. You know, and some of the work that we have done in many of the companies that have done, we've addressed things like unemployment, we've addressed things like skills shortage. These are societal problems. Currently within ALTRON, I am changing that company, focusing it on things like addressing crime in this country. You know, these are societal problems that a corporation is addressing, but you need to find a way to connect that, of course, with making money.
Yeah, here's another thing. I mean, and now I'm going back to the book, right?
Yes.
Betting on a Darkie.
Yes.
That you live in the corporate world and you've worked even internationally for that matter, worked for multinationals.
Yes.
And you've got big global network currently. Yes. But not many people appreciate the fact that we come from a very rural place, right? And a rural background for that matter. Because somebody may assume, oh, well, Mteto is one of the few lucky ones. So, hey, give me a break. Yes. I'm going through my own difficulties. Yes. Tell me briefly about your childhood and youth days. Yes. And I'm asking this question for the benefit of many youngsters who today looking for opportunities cannot find them and probably are buying the story that things are never going to happen for them. You know, that in your case, how did you grow up?
So I grew up in a large family. It's a family of 10. You know, there are 10 of us, and immediately you are growing in a family.
10 children.
10 children. Yeah. Yes. If you are in such a large family, you are number 7. You immediately know that there is no way that you can inherit anything. So you better focus elsewhere. So I grew up in that environment, and we coming again in an environment which was, I would say, lower middle class. Both of my parents were teachers, and they were trying to support these 10 children. And so I grew up there. It's a rural village in the Transkei, in the old Transkei. You know, that's where we were. And my mother, like many mothers that I know in South Africa, she decided, hey, there is too much here. We do not have enough to support this family. Let me go start up something. She started this little shop of hers. And I grew up together with my siblings, supporting her, helping her, you know, to make ends meet, to sell to the community's stuff. And it is through the work that she was doing there that she was able to actually send all of us to university. You know, so that's where I come from. Hard work, waking up at 4:30 in the morning. You know, going there to go get some groceries. You know, that is the environment that I grew up. But I picked up some key values there. How she was treating the people that were working for her. How she was treating and respecting the customers. Those, to me, were some of the key lessons that I took out of that environment.
And, of course, the fact that you did pretty well at school And along the way, winning bursaries, and went on to train as an engineer, right?
Yes.
Which in itself requires you to invest in that training, isn't it?
Yes, yes. So I grew up, and my dad is somebody that clearly he was passionate. He wanted me to do medicine. I ended up representing South Africa in the UK in the International Science Olympiad, you know, and I was one of the top students in science and maths, you know. Again, coming from an environment,
from a rural village.
There's no internet there. There's absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
You know, we are coming from that environment, representing South Africa in the International Science Youth Olympiad.
Yes.
So these things are possible, you know, but they don't just come all by themselves. You need to put some work behind them, the hard work.
Yes.
You know? So that's that. You then decide from there, after being exposed to all of the careers whilst you are in London, said, no, what speaks to me, the kind of person that I am, is not medicine, it's engineering. I must go and do engineering. So going against your parents who want you to do something else, that again, you need to follow your passion. I went to do engineering, and it was tough there, because those days there were not many students, black students, doing mechanical engineering. I was one of the, one in my class who graduated as a black student in mechanical engineering in my class. Very lonely environment. But what kept me going is the fact that we need to show this world, we need to show people that we can do this thing. You know, no matter how tough things are, we have to show that we can be the best, or we can beat the best. So that is what kept me going. And that's what continues to keep me going today. When I'm given a responsibility to run a company, I cannot afford to fail, because I'm adding to this narrative that says, there you are. You give black people something, they will mess up. I cannot afford to add to that narrative, which is a wrong narrative.
Well, I will continue this conversation in a moment and look at the ways in which you motivate yourself, you keep focused, as well as making sure that you manage your career the best way you can, which is what I think you've done exceptionally well. And we'll look at some of the highlights of your life and your views coming back to the South African public life and economy. We are inviting you to engage us using the hashtag the Modise Network on social media. After the break, we continue our chat with the corporate leader, Mteto Nyati.